Now let's turn to one last objection or issue that Mill considers in refining what he means or what his principle that his criterion of morality implies about rightness, that is his act utilitarian criterion of morality. And this one I refer to as the lack of time issue. And let's take a look at kind of the argument that you'd formulate from the objection. And it would be that if act utilitarianism is correct, is true, then it's always right for us to calculate the utilities of all our alternatives before acting. Because how are we going to decide what the right thing to do is? Well, obviously, the right thing to do is the thing that has the highest utility, but we got to do some calculating, some figuring out to see what it is. Now, the point that they make is sometimes maybe it's not right to calculate the utilities of all of our alternatives before acting. Imagine in the trolley example. You got to make a decision. You can't sit around and do something. So, but sometimes, you got to make a decision, and you can make the right decision without calculating all of the utilities of the alternatives. Therefore, act utilitarianism isn't true. Now, once again, Mill's going to tell us that this first premise is just not right. And he's going to say, look, you don't need to calculate utilities at all before deciding to do them. In fact, in some occasions, maybe we better not calculate utility. And he points out that we oftentimes have what you might call rules of thumb. Today, when we're talking about computers doing things, we talk about heuristics. Yeah, it is shorthand rules of thumb. Mill would regard, thou shalt not murder, one of the 10 Commandments, as being one of these heuristics. That is, it's not an absolute law, but we can use that as a rule of thumb, and in most cases, it's going to identify to us what the action is that has the highest utility. I guess in the case of something being wrong, it's murdering somebody. It's probably safe to think in the vast majority of cases, at least according to Mill, not murdering people is, whatever you're doing, not murdering them is going to have a higher utility than the utility of murdering these people. And you got to think about it, and it is certainly, there is something to be said for it, because act utilitarian is the principle that is an action's right if and only if it has the highest utility of any alternative, or it's tied for the highest utility of any alternative. Doesn't say anything about calculating what the utilities are. It just says that you have to do the thing that actually has that highest utility. And imagine there's a baby lying in a road, and there's a cement truck or a bus heading directly towards the baby. Well, utilitarianism seems to require that we save the baby, not that we calculate that it has the highest utility and then do it. In fact, in this case, calculating, if you're considering two actions, running out and saving the baby, or calculating the utility of saving the baby versus whatever alternatives we have, running out and saving the baby is going to have the highest utility. So Mill is right, at least in this case. I mean, it's pretty clear. It doesn't have maybe the odd consequences that we thought before. That is, you don't have to do any calculations. You don't even have to know how to do the calculations. You just have to do the action, or to do something right, you just have to perform the action that has, in fact, the highest utility.